it's unfortunate that kids have to choose between their blackness or their whiteness. Why can't they just be both?
Or why can't they just be both?
Take best of both worlds. Yeah. I know both of my children right now really want to learn Garifuna, right? And it hurts me a little bit that they speak English and they speak German, but they don't speak my native tongue.
Right.
And I think that is my responsibility as a parent to be cognizant of that, but also to respect the fact that my husband really, really wants that the kids also bring something away from his culture. Right? That's his job though. When my daughter first moved here, then she was in the Gemeinschaftsschule and she wore her hair in an afro, right? Because she did that back home. And she came here, she was like, yeah, it's a nice dry day, no humidity, I'll wear an afro. And a guy called her a monkey, right? Du siehst wie ein Affe aus. And she came home, she never wore her hair in an afro again to this day.
All right, and when you see us, it's always a lovely evening. That means the Onlyfacts studio is here again, and the Onlyfacts podcast we're here. And today I'm joined in a studio by Nehanda.
Yes.
Such an interesting name. I've just learned what the name means, actually.
Thank you so much.
Probably tell us more about the names and a little bit of background. But of course, Livingston's my name as always. This is the Onlyfacts podcast. And today we're getting into a very interesting topic, actually. Raising mixed race kids. I had never actually taken notice of that until you come to Germany, you never really take note or be keen on any of that, because kids are kids everywhere. Mm-hmm. But Germany as a country has some challenges, and unfortunately, mixed race kids also do still face some of these challenges while growing up in a society in Germany, in different societies in Germany and so on. And she is here to break it down for us, and in her own experiences, and then her also being a mother. But I'll let her explain that. And of course, my name is Livingston again, and welcome back. So with a brief introduction, what is your name? What does it mean? I've said it. I would love our listeners also to know what it means and where you come from. Well, let's start from there.
Let's start there. Okay, so my name is Nehanda Helmker. I was given the name by my mother, who was pregnant with me when she visited South Africa. This was actually during the time of apartheid. So she was very much interested in African culture at the time, and she met this, what we would call in English, a shaman or a spiritual woman, who said that you're going to have a girl and you should call her Nehanda because she's going to be a warrior princess.
Warrior.
And she gave her this whole background of Nehanda and Zinga, who led the African tribes away from the Dutch when they were colonizing that area. And so she really loved the story. She was like, yes, I'm going to name my daughter this if I have a daughter. Oh. Long story short, here I am, wreaking havoc on the world. No, I'm just kidding. But we're originally from Belize, which is in Central America. Interestingly enough, there are a few African tribes in Central America that are a little bit not so well known. I think around 1996, it became more popular because we were considered a masterpiece culture by the UN. Because we're the only African tribe in the Central American region that has never been colonized. So we're not, we're free people. We have our own language, and we're called Garifuna. So Gari means cassava. So Garifuna means people of the cassava.
Oh, okay.
And so my family is very much into their African roots and culture.
Right.
And so that was very much instilled in me to be proud and to be very aware of what it means to be of a free African people while living among people who come from slavery and colonization.
Right.
Because there is a huge difference in the way we operate and our survival, so to speak. So we were traveling through a West African region to the Americas, back and forth, and we're tradesmen originally. And there seems to be some kind of I wouldn't say misunderstanding, but a very tangled historical background of how we ended up living among slavery. And the way how the story goes is that we were in St. Vincent and the French came, and the French left the Garifuna people on an island called Baliçao to die. right? Because they refused to be colonized. So the French said, all right, here's a cliff. Those who don't want slavery, you can jump off, and the rest of you, can stay. And so they were gathered. Whoever was left in Balisao.
All right.
And somehow, by some miracle, we ended up in Central America. So who could swim? Don't ask me how good I could swim.
Right.
But we made it from Balisao, which is a desert island, to Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Mexico even. So we have a lot of Spanish roots.
Great.
And we have a small group of people in Belize, which is where I'm from.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a pretty
that has been a really I hope one of you or two of you guys have picked something from the history lesson we've had here, but nevertheless it's not a topic we're talking about today. That was though really good, I must be honest. I think we should catch up more. We should bring down our history lesson.
Definitely.
Properly. There's more to tell. But today, the topic, like we mentioned, we are exploring mixed race kids. And from my point of view, you're a mother.
Yes. And the reason why I mentioned my history is because it is very relevant to the way I raise my children, our children. Sorry, babe. My husband is always telling me not to just say, they're not your children, they're our children.
Yeah,
so the reason I bring up my culture is because we have had to adapt as a people a lot, right? I think people who travel a lot, when they learn a process of assimilation and open-mindedness, we are people that have always been bilingual. We know our Garifuna language, which is African and Arawak mix, and whatever language we live in. Right. So a lot of us speak Garifuna in Spanish, Garifuna in English, Garifuna in German, and we're always adaptation is really a big part of how we operate. So when I met my husband and he said, fast forward to, the marriage part, when he said, would you marry me and move to Germany? I was like, yes. I didn't think twice about culture and interpersonal differences and interracial differences and how that affects how people raise their kids, right? So we have one daughter who wasn't born here, who moved here from Belize. And when she moved here, it was like a big cultural shock for her, right? Especially with language. And kids are amazingly resilient, regardless of where you come from. Right. With the speed in which she picked up the language was fascinating to me. But I did notice that she struggled, right, to fit in and to find her place. And to me, looking back, I think what I would have done differently was to create a community of people of Black African descent to kind of cover her and support her, and also prepare my husband for that need.
Nehanda, before we get into that much detail, because I wanted us to have I wanted us to know a bit about your kids. How old are they, and how the process is or was moving to Germany and so on. Just a brief one or two sentences, whatever you can summarize it, so that we could have a picture of how all this started and come back to that. If
I have two girls. I have an adult child. One of them is 20 and the other one is 8. Okay. So very big age difference. And my eldest moved here when she was 10 in 2015. I remember that was the wave of the big immigration, asylum wave that came into Germany. That's when she moved here. Okay. And we lived in a place called Weilerstadt. It's where Kepler is from. I don't know if you know that. I think he's a mathematician or polygraph math or something. He's very, very popular.
Wasn't a math fan though.
Aren't we all not math fan? But yeah, Kepler. We lived in a place called Weilerstadt. This was in Baden-Württemberg, and it's a very sleepy town. It's like nothing happens in Weilerstadt. So there are lots of old German people there, and we're a mixed race couple with this mixed kid, and she was going to what they came up with because of the big wave called the, what do you call this again? They call it, the name is a special school for the immigrants who came that time. That's the school she had to go to. So it didn't matter that her dad spoke German and that she was hearing German every day.
And who decides that?
The school.
The school
The school decides that. And I pushed for her to get sent to regular school, but they were like, no, she needs to do this amount of German before she can qualify.
Okay.
And Gemeinschaftsschule, that was what it was called.
Okay.
And so after she went to that school for about a year, then they transferred her to regular school. But my second daughter was homeschooled up until Schulpflicht. I don't know if you know, there is Schulpflicht here.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that.
Okay.
That was my first shock, right? Because
Right.
I wanted, after the experience with my daughter, I wanted to be able to have the possibility of homeschooling. And then I was informed that that's not a thing.
Not even an option in Germany.
Right. And it's like, I couldn't understand, like, even with my husband, he was like, what do you mean you're stay home with the kid? What will you do all day? Well, I'm a teacher. I teach English online. Why would I need to leave home, take her to someone when I can take care of? I don't bring my child on this earth for somebody else to take care of.
Right.
So he didn't understand that concept. And then I realized that it is so much ingrained, a specific linear way of being in Germany is such ingrained in Germans that they can't even imagine a different kind of world that exists everywhere else. It was a very, very interesting point. I don't know if I'm answering your question though.
Well, I mean, that answer, at least it gives us, throws some light on, you have kids and we know they're mixed race kids. And because that is the topic of today, and we want all my questions are rotating from the mixed race experiences and so on.
Yeah.
But I would want to get straight into it. You have mixed race kids, we've established that. They came here, had to struggle a bit with some German, and one wasn't born here, had to come and had to struggle with German and so on. So mixed race kids, among other kids, have maybe have a bit, their life is a bit more challenging when it comes to identity, when it comes to them identifying themselves and so on. So how is it with your kids? How do they identify themselves, and how
that's
do you
a good
help them?
question. Yeah, how do they identify themselves? We have an expression in patois. Patois is kind of like our Jamaican English is wante, can't get it, and get it, can't want it. Two of them, especially when it comes around hair.
Yeah.
One of them is very fair skinned and has thick hair like me, and the other one is darker, but she has like loose curly hair. And the one with the loose curly hair wants the thick hair because she wants cornrows. And the one with the thick hair wants the curly hair because she want to be like, yes, per queen, wash and go. So, I mean, I have the best of both worlds because I was always very excited to be able to cornrow and stuff like that. And I remember the hair especially is such a political thing because we are the only group of people that walk the face of the earth, Black African people, besides maybe Jewish and some Arab tribes, don't have that feature about themselves that they have this hair,
Right.
And it's frustrating for them to feel accepted because finding hair products was an issue. And feeling beautiful as a woman, especially as a female, feeling beautiful if your hair is not sleeked down, and you say everybody else's hair is sleeked down,
Right.
So I think that for me, it was very important to know how to do my kids' hair. So that's number one. Number two is I didn't, like you use the word struggle. I really didn't want to really focus too much on different is bad. Like my daughter used to go on the playground and point to me and say, yeah, mom, that's my mom right there, the black one. Because she knows that daddy and mommy don't look the same, but
Right.
like one's black and one's white. Like they're just different from each other. And I think that I know that when we started to get our kids ready for going to school here, we talked about a lot, like how are we not going to make them being other, have them think of themselves as othered. I think that is a big thing that is very, very difficult to do without making people feel like a victim. And so I used to always tell my daughter, like, okay, yeah, so you are different. So what? That's a good thing. Imagine if we all look the same. Then what? You wouldn't be, if I come and pick you up, you wouldn't know which one is me. right? And just because you're different from the other kids does not mean that you're ugly, because not everything is for everyone. And if you are different, then you're going to find somebody who likes that about you, just like I did. And so the other thing is to not talk so much about, okay, because you're Black, you're going to be discriminated against. I think that that's a very dangerous road to go down. I mean, I'm not naive to say like, yeah, okay, everybody's going to like me because I'm Black, or everybody's going to hate me because I'm Black. We live in the 21st century. We have seen Morgan Freeman play God, right? We have seen Lupita and so many other people of color, so many people of Black African descent achieve so much. So I've never encouraged my kids to go down the road of, oh, this happened to me because I'm Black. So race is not an issue in that sense in our house. We are very much aware of race and aware of racism, but understanding the difference between race and prejudice is something that is, for me as a mother of mixed race kids, important for them to understand. Now, to the point of, like, how do my kids identify? It's a hard thing. And I think I don't think that the mixed race boys have this issue. Black women are like kryptonite to light-skinned Black women, right? Like if you, like my daughter would be considered light-skinned because she has the thick hair. People don't know that she's mixed. They just think she's light-skinned. And it becomes a whole colorism thing that Black women feel, or Black girls, you know, in her class and stuff, they feel intimidated because she's lighter complexion, like, or they would say things like, you're not really Black, right? And she wants to identify with her Blackness, but she can't because she's othered, right? And I would tell her like, well, that's why you have your cousins, right? Your cousins will not other you. But she really feels sometimes like she has to work extra hard to be Blacker than Black to make up for not being.
Right. And this is, and Nehanda, this is really a thing that many children are really struggling with. Because we've had also a few guests on the show and they have talked about this. This is something they struggle with. Maybe probably not your kids because they have a mother that prepares them for that. But most people don't really resonate with their white side, and neither with their white side nor with the Black side, and so on. So, and then they find themselves in the middle there. So they don't know, they're not accepted on the white side and not accepted on the Black side. So they're in between there, struggling to just to belong to our side, you know. And I understand the optimism, and I really do love that you put more optimism into educating your children on how to be better people and not to look at themselves as disadvantaged Black people and so on. But don't you think that this, in a way, does not expose them entirely to what Germany is? Because unfortunately, it is a country that still has some racist groups, that still has people who will see beautiful Black kids on the street and just say out anything they want and will do any kind of horrific stuff. Yeah. For as long as you're not of white descent and so on. So don't you think that this limits their awareness of who they are and how they should protect themselves?
To be optimistic, or
just because you mentioned that because according to what I'm picking, you channel everything into the optimism and you try to really give them that strength and so on. But don't you think that in a way limits their awareness on who they are?
Well, you said something very interesting, Livingston, about being in the middle, right? I don't really think that it works like that, because individual experiences depend on lots of things, like who your parents were when you were born, what time you were born, not what time of day, but like what era, right? So 2000s, the 80s, the 90s. All of those things play a very unique role in how a person grows up. Now, to your point of saying that it's, you know, optimism can make them feel a little bit too sheltered, I get that. And I think what I've noticed, so my daughter, our adult child is back in Belize right now taking care of my mother. And this is her first trip to my home country as an adult. And she's seeing things. I mean, before we went back, she was like, I want to go home. I don't want to live in Germany. Now she's there and she's realizing how German she is. Right? So she used to, we would tease her about it. Like, you were so German. And she would be like, I'm not German. I'm Black. I'm this, I'm that. And, and she would really try to prove that she has not adopted this culture. She has not assimilated. I'm like, there's no way you can live here and not be influenced. And we live with my in-laws. So they have that, and we live in the country. There are 150 people in the village where we live. So there is no way that she's not going to get affected, both of them. And so I understand that their experience of being Black is different from mine simply because they live in this country.
Right.
And so that comes along with it, the fact that their father, who is German, influences who they become. Whether or not they want to accept it or not, that's going to happen. And so I think it's all about how you feel as a parent when you are talking about your experience of othered, of being Black African descent, of being in a country where you're a minority. If your attitude towards that experience is a negative one, then they will internalize that. I'm very, very careful. There are certain things in our house we just don't say because they will get enough of that outside. And to say like, okay, Germany has a unique dominance on racism and prejudice. I lived in Guyana. I lived in the United States. I lived in Holland. In Holland, they have a tradition called Black Pete. I don't know if you've ever been to Holland at Christmas time.
I've been to Holland, but not during Christmas time.
Yeah,
no.
they have a tradition where there's this blackface guy dressed up and the people throw things at him and kick him. That happens in Holland. I don't know. I mean, something like that.
Producer should check that. Should check for that for us that out. We should.
Yeah, we
should learn more about this culture. Okay.
Oh man, I mean, when I lived there, I was horrified, and people find that okay. And every year, this was maybe like 14 years ago. Every year before then, they were trying to get people to stop this tradition, and the Dutch refused to stop it. I mean, yeah, you could see it so or so, but it's unfortunate that kids have to choose between their Blackness or their whiteness. Why can't they just be both? Or
Why can't they just be both?
Take best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I know both of my children right now really want to learn Garifuna, right? And it hurts me a little bit that they speak English and they speak German, but they don't speak my native tongue.
Right.
And I think that is my responsibility as a parent to be cognizant of that, but also to respect the fact that my husband wants, really, really wants that the kids also bring something away from his culture, right? That's his job though. I know that people don't come for me in the comments. You know who you are. The people who, the women especially who have Black children and don't comb their children's hair. And you see it most of the time when the parent, the mother is the white one, and you see the children running around looking like their child's hair has never been combed. Like, how can you have a child and not pick up a book or go to YouTube University and learn what flaxseed oil is, or learn what coconut oil is, or learn what cocoa butter is? Like, how could you do that? And also, how come the father didn't get involved in that? Like, I want to say shout out to one of my friends who he used to bring his daughter to my house every Saturday because his wife was just like, I can't do my daughter's hair. You're going to have to help me out with that. So, I think that it's important. When I first met my husband, I came here before I moved, like, officially, and saw what it was like to be in Germany.
Right.
You got to do your homework. So,
but you mentioned really a very interesting point that brings me actually to my next question.
Okay.
Because there is this lack of awareness because this is a new culture. I'm getting married to maybe someone of African descent. I'm a white woman, and I don't really have that much exposure to this African culture and so on. But I want to direct that in a different. I want to redirect that into schools. So, do you believe that schools are well equipped to handle, for example, mixed race kids, or to handle kids of African descent, or kids who are not white.
What would you propose that schools in Germany do to handle? I mean, what is the handling that needs handling?
So let's look at how the school system is designed. So is it designed on structures that favor also Black people? Is it designed, or does even our history get taught in those schools? Because you realize, I'll give you an example. I have white friends, and most of my white friends don't even know that Germany had colonies, don't even know that Germany killed a lot of people in Namibia, don't even know about this. They have no knowledge. They have literally less knowledge about this. Let's look at medicine. In medicine, students learn more or practice a lot on white bodies than they do on Black bodies. So this is the entire German school system, just to summarize it for you. And charity starts at home, but in this case, it begins at the lower levels. So do you think, in your understanding, because your children also visit German schools, but do you think that these schools are well equipped for them to understand, okay, I'm not white, I am, but I don't also, I don't have this feeling that I don't belong there, because part of my culture or part of me is also being taken as part of them. So it is also practiced in that school. I also get to learn about it. So that in that way, they don't feel like I'm the old man out, because I get to learn more about other cultures, but not even mine. So I don't get to hear anything about any of my side. So I just have to find it out myself, or I just have to talk to my mom if I need anything like that.
Right. And this is where it gets very controversial, because I feel like we do all have a social responsibility to get out of these systems what it is we want and expect.
Okay.
And I have to say that I am not really a big fan of schools like that. As a teacher, I've been in the school system in education for 15, 16 years now. And the things that I've seen across the board, not just here in Germany, but in other countries, is that schools have really failed overall for the reality of what society is facing. We are, and worse here in Germany, because I don't know why it is like that here, but there isn't a real understanding of exactly what you're talking about, the cultural melting pot that's happening, but also other things like technology and hybrid culture, right? You have children who are now first generation German. You have children who have come from asylum. The country is just not equipped to handle that. How would you handle a situation like that? What would be, is the system, my question would be back to you, is the system already just too broken that we have to completely dismantle it and start over? Or do we as people of, do we as minorities make the change and say, hey, this is what I want to see, or I'm available to volunteer to teach a course in African culture, or I want to see this happen in my school? Because I think on an unofficial level, people are waiting for other people to do something. And you have to be the change that you want to see. So that's that. If you want to work within the system of education, that I think would be a nice Band-Aid approach to a gaping wound. But I think the problem is far deeper than I want to get to on this episode. But yeah, I think that that's one of the things that I think we need to do, is that everybody needs to take personal responsibility and not wait for.
Do you mean everybody, us as a collective, parents, teachers,
absolutely,
government?
Since I've been going to parent-teachers meetings here in Germany, like where I come from, parent-teachers meetings are a big thing. They're hours long. Everybody want to say their piece. As a teacher, it was a nightmare. Since I've been going to parent-teachers meetings here, and this is no shade to the German parents, this is just my experience, it's usually 5% of parents that go. I don't know if they're too busy. I don't know what's going on, but most of the time, nobody goes. Why? I don't speak the language. I'm too busy. I'm at work. I don't care. Children have so much autonomy here as foreign children. They kind of govern themselves because the parents don't speak the language. My kids, not in this lifetime. But I know that was the experience of many of my daughter's classmates, is that the sister was going to the parent teachers meeting or no one was going to the parent teachers meeting because the parents don't know how to navigate the system. Right. So how do you even encourage parents to get involved to the point that they can actually participate and make change?
Right.
So,
exactly. And so I want us also to jump, because you really mentioned very serious points there that I would want to go deep into. But for the instance of time, I want to jump to my next question.
Okay.
So have your kids at any one point come to you and ask or share anything with you that they have experienced that is maybe in the instance of, I don't want to say racism, but maybe if there is, and if yes, how did you handle that?
Yes, they have experienced racism at varying degrees. Well, prejudice, right? So I would say that prejudice and racism are different. I've noticed that the definition has changed over time. Like when I was going to school in America, and anyways, let's try to stay on point. When I was going to school in America, racism meant that you were deliberately put under oppression and prevented from getting access to services and different things because of what you look like, regardless of whether or not you were qualified or not. Right. So that's what I grew up with as racism. Now we've lumped some in prejudice into that, where if somebody calls you a name or someone doesn't like you or someone pulls your hair or whatever, then that is also considered racism, but they have no real power. They're not preventing you or stopping you from doing the things that you want to get done in society. But anyways, if we go with that combined definition, I would say yes. When my daughter first moved here, when our eldest adult child, then she was in the Gemeinschaftsschule, and she wore her hair in an afro, right? Because she did that back home, even though she was also just a little creamy dot with an afro. All the other girls were Latina, they had straight hair. And she came here, she was like, yeah, it's a nice dry day, no humidity, I'll wear an afro. And a guy called her a monkey. Right? Du siehst wie ein Affe aus. And she came home, she never wore her hair in an afro again to this day. Maybe she's doing it because she's back home, but that was it for her. And and so she also, and now I want to say that the racism that I would call it racism, that she experienced was when we were changing from Realschule to Gymnasium in the middle of the school semester, because she was being bullied by a teacher. She was like only in the school 1 week, and I was pregnant with my second, and she came home in tears, and she was like, the teacher said that I stole this watch. Who else could have stolen the watch? She doesn't know my daughter from Adams. This is her first week in school, but I know that you were the one that took it. And so my daughter was like, why? Because I'm black? And she didn't answer her, but it became this huge thing. My daughter was singled out of the classroom. It was a mess. It was a huge mess. And it really was a defining moment for my daughter to be like, yo, this is a real thing here. My mom has told me about it. I've heard stories, but I'm really like living it. And she was mortified. And all I could do, because I can't change society, is brace her, And we got her out of the school, right? Because when you're a parent of a mixed child, you have to be able to executively decide what fights you're going to fight, because there are always fights. You can't fight all the fights. No. Plus, you have to tell your white partner that you can't fight all the fights, because they want to come in like white savior and be like, well, that's not fair, and I'm going to do something. Then you will be busy for the rest of your life. Like something you're just going to have to let go. This is just this is the territory. All right. All you have to do is buffer this child as much as possible and move on. So we were shopping around for schools, and one of the principals, this is also racism, told us, when you fail French, not if, But when you fail French, you will not be able to come back to this school. And so when my daughter was like, oh, okay, all right then. And I called her aside and I was just like, listen, you can go to French class for the summer and still make it. And she was like, I don't want to be around those people. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with that school. I don't want to go to that school. Let's find something else. And so I listened to her and I gave her the room to make that decision that she thought was best for her, and kept on encouraging her and telling her, like, look, no matter where you go or who you are not for everybody. You are going to have people who are not going to like you. And that is not something specifically for Black people. You see how Daddy gets treated when he goes to Belize. The price is $10 and when they see him, it's $50, right? So he also experiences this kind of discrimination. So don't feel yourself to be so much of a snowflake that, you know, Black is bad. It's just the way of the world, you know? So more than that, I can't do. My youngest, she has not experienced that yet, thank God, but she is very aware. Kids are not dumb. Yeah. They're not stupid. She goes to school and she realizes, you know what, Mom? I'm the only one in the entire school with curly hair. The entire school.
I can relate to that.
The entire school.
I can relate to that. Oh.
And I was like, oh, wow, you must be real special, man. I mean, you want to wear your hair out tomorrow? And just me reacting like that eases her. You know, like, okay, yeah, I'm different, but being different doesn't always have to be bad. Right. And I think that more than that, I really can't do. Well, I can do more, but I don't want to get arrested.
Yeah. Right. Wow. Amazing. Yeah, it's crazy because it's getting even more interesting. So let's, I want us to look at, do you think it was the best decision of all places for you to move to Germany?
Absolutely. When I was a little girl, I got the opportunity to move here and I was like,
regardless of the racism?
Regardless of the racism? Well, oh man, you're really putting me on the spot, Livingston. I'm not going to be able to show my face on these internet streets again.
Say what you think.
Look, I go back to my culture because my grandfather went to school in Canada when it was Jim Crow in the United States. He drove from Belize to Canada during Jim Crow. This was like during the civil rights movement. And so I come from a long line of people who just got to push on through. You got to just have that level of resilience. I'm not the first or the last person who's going to be discriminated against. You don't make yourself be a victim and let your Blackness stop you from your greatness. Your greatness. Say that again. That's a bar. Your Blackness is a part of your greatness. Your whiteness is whoever it is you are is a part of your greatness. And so that's what I was told growing up. And so when we moved to America, we lived in...
I gotta interrupt you because this hit it. So you don't let what you are stop you from
becoming your greatness.
From becoming your greatness. That should be my highlight. Should I write that down? It should be my highlight for today. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem.
I just wanted to really, because it's really important we emphasize it. Every little kid down there knows that don't let your afro limit you from just putting it out however you want it to be. Let it flow. It is beautiful the way it is, and don't let you being Black limit you from your greatness.
It's a part of it.
Amazing.
It's a part of it. Your Blackness is a part of your greatness. And so when we moved to America, I struggled, you know. I was called every name in the book. We were going to school in the South. We went to New Orleans, Lusher High Elementary School in New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay, Bible Belt, the southern of the South. Okay, the America they talk is not what you hear on TV. You don't understand nothing they say. And so we were, you know, the little Black kids in a white school. And of course we felt discriminated against. But it didn't prevent us from getting an education. Our parents loved us and provided a space where, you know, we were told exactly that. My mother was telling me that because her father and mother told her that. And they had it worse in Canada. I mean, not as worse as if they would have had it if they grown up in the States at the time of Jim Crow. But my goodness, we have relatives who lived through Jim Crow.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest lies. This is what feeds racism, is this fear of othered that stops me and gives me a story to prevent me from actually living my life. And of course, all young people go through it. I went through it where I was like, oh, the man and, you know, the this and the that. And it's everybody else's fault that I haven't made it. An excuse is nothing but a well-planned lie. And it's not that I don't empathize with my children. Like if somebody, you know, I'm a mama bear. I'm coming for you if you do anything to my kids. But I also have to build the resilience in them, which is the stock that I come from, that you've got to get the job done. You want things, it's going to come at a price.
All right.
Nothing comes easy.
And unfortunately, I have to wrap this up in 3 minutes. Time moves so fast. But I mean, I would literally suggest that we have a part two for this, because this
Absolutely.
is a very intense topic, and you provided provided you are a teacher, you have more
Yes.
to say. You are an outspoken person. I would love to explore more to that. So, but before I want, what advice do you have for first white mothers out there who are struggling with their kids? They are married into this culture. They don't know how to embrace this culture. It's a new thing, and they don't know to mention the thing of tending hair. You notice it maybe in their friends and so on. So what advice do you give to the white mothers and the parents?
Yeah.
So, generally, parents who are going through this regardless of their black or white.
I think one of the biggest things is to form communities, you know, for the white mothers specifically. Find yourself an auntie. Don't be afraid to go up to a woman with some nice braids in her hair and be like, I'm gonna give you $20 for some advice, or, you know, can you come by and show me how to do this style that you have? Or, you know, find yourself a little Afro barber shop and go park your child there at least once a month. I know it can get expensive, but, you know, find yourself a nice auntie, find yourself a nice African community nearby so that your child will have a place that looks like them. You know, I think that that's a really big thing, and get the fathers involved, and go to YouTube University. There are so many platforms there that talk about all of the things that you can use and utilize to make your child feel a little bit more self and not othered.
Amazing. No, that unfortunately I have to put this topic short right here.
Sorry.
This is of time. But like we mentioned, we really must have a part of it, because it's getting more bigger and bigger, and we have to go more deeper and deeper and deeper. Definitely we shall have a we shall have at least tell us more about these experiences. And
Yeah,
also
sure.
might use your advice as a teacher and as a mom of two kids to help different people out there.
Yeah.
So with this, I want you to say the last word of words, and we call it a day.
My last word is that there is a place for everyone, and the world needs more love. That's what we need more of. So you are not alone. We are here for you, and love each other more.
The world needs more love. The world always needs more love. And I feel like the world needs love now, like never before. With that, I was Livingstone, and I had my name here.
Thank you for having me.
Please come back. We need you.
Absolutely.
We need your words. Well, with that, it has been really a nice shoot, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Don't forget, we're Onlyfacts Studios. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to let us
Subscribe
know in
button.
the comment section what you think. A white mom out there, a black mom out there, same experiences, advice. Please let us know what you think, and if anything is left untouched, you always let us know in the comment section.
Nice.